Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the Lenko Show, the place to go for everything involving health, fitness, performance. Whatever your training needs are, we will try and provide you the best professional information and advice that we possibly can. Hopefully, for those of you who have listened to previous episodes, hopefully you've enjoyed some of the recent ones with some of our, let's be honest, superstar guests. Sam Ruddock, episode 18. And John Kenyon, I think episode 21. Two absolute legends. And today we are going to continue that trend. Today we're going slightly different in terms of profession. We're not going for a professional athlete, but today I am bringing in Jonny Baird, who is an expert personal trainer / coach. And we are going to be talking about all things health and fitness related. Some of the things that he's got going on right now with regards to COVID, how he's still being able to coach clients, some of the tips that he's giving out to his clients, and hopefully you will find a way to be able to apply those to your own life and to your own training as well. So sit back, enjoy, and let's get into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jonny Baird to the show. Obviously, perfect timing with our current climate, current circumstances, being in a pandemic and a national health crisis. I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing those words at the moment. But Jonny, welcome to the show. How are you doing, man?
I'm not bad, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. I've actually just come off recording another podcast. So I've done plenty of speaking. I'm just kind of pin it all on you today and just ask a couple of questions and let you chat away for a few hours. So as a health and fitness expert, do you want to just kind of delve into your background a little bit, tell people kind of how long you've been doing personal training, where you've come from, some of the things that you've qualified in, and let the world know.
Let the world know. Well, first thing, I can't remember the last time I was called an expert, but I like the sound of it. I've been called a lot of things, but an expert's probably not one of them. Maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on myself. I don't know. Background, I don't know. Like, where do you want me to start? As early as possible.
Well, let's go. What got you into personal training to begin with?
Personal training. Well, I'm the youngest of four lads in my family. So my eldest brother's 6 years older than me, Chris. He's been the one that's probably influenced me the most in terms of health and fitness. Looking back, he's probably the one that's kind of pushed me a little bit more down that route. So obviously when I was going into secondary school, he was leaving, he's going towards university, so he started to explore that. So in terms of like higher education, I was kind of exposed to that from the age probably about 11, 12-year-old, I guess. And he went to Hull Uni to do sports science, which I later went on to do the same thing at the same university. So I guess that was the influence initially. He left uni after 3 years. I think he did all right. I think he got a 2-1 or something. You know, it's a weird time, isn't it? And he went straight to personal training. He loved it. But he went down a different route to what I eventually went down. He went down an employed route, which is something I've not experienced. I don't know if you have, Alex.
No, I have not. We will probably talk about and discuss the employed versus self-employed personal training route, because I think for a lot of people that are listening, if you are considering hiring a trainer, you know, how do you go about doing that? Who do you look for? Well, the pitfalls to it, because it's a tricky area and it shouldn't be taken too lightly, I don't think. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I'd say it's an area or a topic quite close to my heart, especially over the last 12, 13, 14 months. But like you say, Alex, we'll probably cover that a little bit later on. So yeah, I eventually worked my way through high school, did all right in A-levels and all that. And it was just one of those things. I kind of went to uni, did sports science, loved it. And I left and I was thinking, what do I do now? Like, do I go get a job in a call centre, get like a job that, you know, it's an ends to a means kind of thing, or do I want to try something which I'm a little bit more passionate about? So just after I left uni, did a fast track course PT, which again is probably an area we'll speak about, I imagine, like the ways to get into PT. And I was introduced to Gray, who, you know, is the guy that runs Profit. And the rest is history, I suppose. So that's how I kind of got into it. it's the only thing I've really known since coming out of university. So I couldn't imagine being in another industry or being employed or doing anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So probably from the best way to summarize that is that from a very young age, you've been exposed to training, health, fitness,
Yeah.
and being immersed in that pathway all the way through, well, probably a good chunk of your childhood through college, university, and then, well, for the last, how many years have you been with ProFit?
Coming up to 5 years now. Started 2016. It's mad. Absolutely flown by.
So it's a good chunk of time as well. 5 years, isn't it?
It's a fifth of my life.
Well, if you consider sort of how many personal trainers actually leave the industry after the first year, I think it's something like 90%, 96%, something like that.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily high, isn't it? I mean, starting a business by itself is hard enough, and then in an industry which is so saturated with personal trainers and experts and influencers and stuff, I think I've done all right, to be fair.
Well, you're above the average, and I think, going back to the start, I think you've earned the title of expert with that as well, being in it for such a long period of time, and well, maintaining a good business with it as well.
Yeah, I've heard a few girls say that was above average as well, so I'll take that.
Brilliant. So who is it that you're kind of currently working with? What is it you currently doing as a trainer? What's your specialization?
So I'd say specialization probably I'd probably go fat loss, to be fair. That's who most of my clients seem to be about and stuff like that. My clients, they've been outstanding, to be fair. I think in hindsight over the last year, especially through COVID, I've been very fortunate to have a core of clients which have stuck by me, supported me, and hopefully benefited from like spending virtual time with me, I guess. But it ranges anywhere from like 16, 17-year-old up to, I think my oldest client's 84, coming up to 85. So the spectrum's vast, and I love it, to be fair.
Note to anybody who is considering hiring a trainer, some of the best trainers will not have a high turnover of clients. Like, go and find someone who's got and had clients for a long period of time, and you haven't seen them constantly chopping and changing. People will leave for a reason.
It's not because I don't like it.
I'm sure I've had plenty of people leave me because they don't like me. I'm sure that's definitely been the case.
We've all been there, Alex. You can't take it personally, can you? You're not going to get on with everyone, are you? And that's just the way it is. But I think if you're doing a good job majority of the time, clients will stay with you.
Yeah, definitely. So as an expert, an expert in fat loss, really, what are some of the main things that you would kind of tap into or advise for anyone that is, well, I suppose, I mean, we're only in Feb, aren't we? So probably people still carrying a bit of Christmas weight, maybe just obviously I think probably the lockdown blues. I don't know if that's a term, but people struggling with, essentially sitting at home, not being able to go out, not being able to play sport. That for me, that's certainly my biggest irritation at the moment. Not being able to go out, play sport, compete, train in a gym.
Yeah.
A lot of people, because gyms are shut. So how do people not get fat? How do people lose body fat? If they choose to do so, we're not saying that this is something that everyone should do. If you don't want to lose body fat, don't listen to this next chunk of the show. Go.
That's a great bit of advice, to be fair. The person that probably summarises this best is probably James Haskell. I don't know if you've seen his, he got triggered on Instagram, didn't he? He started talking about McDonald's and stuff like that. It was a fantastic clip. But I guess it's perspective. Everyone knows it. Like, everyone that's on social media that's kind of into health and fitness will have the term calorie deficit driven into it. Like, it's everywhere, and everyone's hearing this phrase. Whether people understand it or not, it's there, it's around. And again, weight loss, in terms of what it is black and white. You hit a consistent calorie deficit, that weight will come off. It's the application of the little things, though, I think, over the period of time, which is going to make the biggest difference. And I'm not going to sit here and say, right, the best way to do it is Slimming World Weight Watchers, 1-1 diet and all that shite, because it's not. Ultimately, if you want to lose weight, you want to drop the fat, you've got to start basic, and it's fucking boring, and it's not sexy, and it don't sell, But I guarantee if you nail the foundations, build some basic habits, it'll come off and it'll stay off and you'll live happily ever after.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've got to say, I am absolutely sick to the back teeth. Whenever I see somebody or a trainer post on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is, kind of belligerently preaching just being a calorie deficit, I just think, right, thank you. How? Like, where do people go from there? So, you know, assuming that that's now common knowledge because we see it all the time. I mean, I suppose I see it all the time because it's the world I'm in, but
yeah,
I know some people might not be exposed to the same level of kind of personal training propaganda or the health and fitness kind of
that bubble
push. Yeah, that bubble, that push, and that level of preaching, because it is preaching, isn't it? So for the people that might not necessarily be aware of it, can you take us through sort of like what you mean by a calorie deficit, then what you would do as a trainer to then help someone who is actually aware of it negotiate and get around actually achieving it?
Yeah. So I suppose it's a little bit like exercise program. Like the way that I kind of get around what calorie deficit is to clients is I try and show them the big picture and saying, look, this is what we're going to work through. And the first thing will be a calorie deficit. And if you want me to go through that really quickly, everyone has a certain level of calories that they need just to maintain weight. So if you did absolutely nothing, I think they say what an average is it for men about 2,000 calories and females 1,500 or 2,500, something like that. If you did nothing and consume those calories, in theory, your weight would stay the same. If you was to consume less calories than what your body needed to maintain weight, you would lose weight. And that's pretty much all a calorie deficit is. Now, what good coaches will do is explain that principle, that idea to people, and then support them on the journey of implementing small habit changes that will help them to do that consistently. Knowing it's, I suppose, half the battle, but then implicating the little things is the thing that creates change. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on one of those little things. So I've noticed that you're sitting and I'm standing. And for anyone that for anyone that is, you know, really into this in terms of calorie deficit and looking at the bigger picture, you know, because I'm standing, I will naturally burn 6 calories more than you per hour. So there we go.
Not competitive though, are you, Alex?
What will that add up to over the course of, like you said, you know, it's application of the little things over a long period of time. And, you know, there are some subtle changes that people can make to actually achieve that. I think first and foremost, there are some pretty fundamental things like don't eat, you know, an entire pizza or an entire 18-inch pizza on your own every single night kind of thing.
Yeah.
To ultimately, you know, you might change what you drink. You might have to change your sleep pattern. And I think possibly one of the things that people will struggle with a calorie deficit that I don't think always gets explained is that it's a moving goalpost, isn't it? Like it's always fluctuating. So how do you make sure that your clients maintain that, or how would you encourage people to maintain a level of consistency over time? What kind of tools would you use to coach it, or any little tips that you would implement with Joe Public that, you know, just wants to lose a bit of body fat, but sensibly?
Yeah, well, I think that's the key, and sensibly. I think to understand a calorie deficit, if you've done it well enough, is to understand calories. And I think once you know what calories are and you accept that they're in everything, I think that helps a lot of people as well. It's moving away from this idea of good food and bad food. It's a mindset shift, a perspective change almost, isn't it? So again, I always say to my clients, the initial phase is going to be a little bit trial and error. You know, we'll use a calorie calculator, something like that, and we'll figure out roughly what we think your calorie deficit will be. And normally the way that I work it out will be to figure out the BMR, which is just their maintenance level, and then work 10 to 15% lower than that. And I think if we can nail that for 2, 3, 4 weeks and we see that weight's coming off, we know that we're in calorie deficit. If not, then obviously we need to readjust those figures. And it's just one of those processes. You've got to measure and correct, I guess, haven't you? Review.
Yes, absolutely. And what any particular tools that you would use to measure and maintain that level of consistency over a period of time?
Yeah, so again, with our face-to-face clients, we'll sit down every 4 weeks and we'll look at other measures to signify any kind of change in body shape. Because it's normally, if we're looking at fat loss, it's normally to do with some kind of aesthetic or a body shape or whatever. We'll do some circumference measurements. We'll have a look at weight, at body fat. So get my little skin calipers out. I know that's not really that COVID friendly at the minute, but they're there. So we'll have a look at lean mass, fat mass, take pictures. I think pictures are a quality one. One thing that I do like to get some of my clients to do, it works really well with females, is get them to get some piece of clothing out that I know that they used to love and feel amazing in, and just like stick it up somewhere and like try it on every now and again and see how close they are to their old self or where they were happiest, I guess.
Why do you think that works as a tool or as a motivator? Why do you think that works for people?
What, the last thing?
That bit of clothing that you used to love the way you felt, you used to love the way you looked. Why do you think that would work?
It don't work for everyone, but I think some people respond to it because it's in the face. I think with any kind of changing lifestyle, there's got to be an element of stepping out of your comfort zone. And I think by admitting to yourself that you love that piece of clothing, but you don't look brilliant in it now or feel great in it, I think it forces you, or kind of, it's in the back of your mind, it's there. Do you know what I mean? You know that you've got to do something because it's there, it's looking at you. You have to deal with it.
It's almost like that law of attraction where you're constantly reminded of something, so you start acting and behaving a certain way. You start to believe and embody that you are the person that does fit into that, does look great in that, does look sexy in that. So you go and do the other little things, the other little habits that you apply over a period of time, and there you go. How important is it in your mind? Like, obviously, we've spoken about understanding calories and that every food has a value, probably almost like a currency. I think that's probably a fair way to explain it. How important is it to understand that and move away from the good food, bad food mindset? Like pizza is a bad food, or donuts is a bad food, or cake is a bad food. Because I eat cake, I eat pizza, and I eat donuts, but I also have abs. Do you know what I mean? Like, how can we help people get through that mentality to being in a better place where you can eat those foods and enjoy it and not feel bad about it?
Well, this is what I mean. Like, ultimately, it's a mindset change, isn't it? I've said it a couple of times already, and it will take time to develop it for most people. And I think by understanding the calorie deficit, you'll ultimately understand what calories are. And I think as soon as you stop demonizing foods or grouping foods into certain things, you'll just enjoy it, because you'll have experienced this yourself when you spoke with clients or you spoke with people that just want to lose fat that aren't seeing results. They'll have said things like, "Oh, I was doing really, really well this week. I got to Friday, I had a pizza and I thought I'd fucked it. So I just kind of let go. And then I had 700 burgers. I had like 30 kebabs. And, Johnny, I've put on like 6 stone. Well, I'm not surprised you're dead, like, do you know what I mean? But it's that. And I think you can only help people ultimately want to change or want to think differently anyway. And ultimately, you're just like going to be hitting your head against the wall, aren't you?
Yeah. But you can lead a horse to water, as the saying goes. I think it's interesting you brought up the mindset of, I had a biscuit at work, so screw it. I'm going to have pizza and chips tonight. I'm going to have a few jars, a few pints of lager. I don't know where I bought jars of lager from. I get a few jars of lager. Where essentially, I always liken this to when I was a kid. If my mum said, don't get, like, if I was going out to the back garden and she'll go, don't get dirty, we're going out soon. And you get a bit of mud on your shoes and you think, screw it. And then
that's it.
You're walking back into the house, you're just covered head to toe, and she goes absolutely nuts and just hoses you down outside.
You're just laughing behind your hands.
Yeah, so how do you go about speaking, or what's the conversation like when someone does go through that kind of situation where they've gone off the diet maybe just ever so slightly, and as a result of veering off course a little bit, they then decide to take a complete detour and completely fall off the wagon?
Yeah. I think, and I've got better at this over time, I suppose it comes down to those first couple of conversations where you set out your stall a little bit and you pre-frame. Now, I'm not the type of PT or coach that will dictate what people eat, and I'll never give them anything initially that's going to kind of, I'll give them a couple of recipe books and stuff like that, but I'm not going to give them a food plan. I'll say to them, look, the focus for the next month or two is literally just nail your calorie target, nail your protein target. After that, then we can start building on it. And then normally through the week and stuff like that, they'll message me saying, oh, I've not done that very well. You know, I've had a burger and stuff like that. And I'll say, well, that's not the focus at me. I'm not bothered about your burger. How many calories are you on at the minute? And they'll be like, oh, well, I'm still under by 50. I'm thinking, well, that's brilliant. And it's just reinforcing that, I think, in the early stages so that so they don't feel like they've failed almost. I feel like they have an expectation of personal trainers to be absolutely perfect. And their idea of perfect is eating, 20 vegetable and fruit a day kind of thing and never have anything else. And I think allowing them to see that actually we're not like that and we don't want them to be like that settles them down a little bit, chills them out. And I think when they're chilled and they trust you, they'll grow.
Yeah, I think that's an important message. Like, we are personal trainers, we're in good shape, we look after ourselves, but we're not monks, we're not aliens, we don't live off the same thing constantly day in, day out. We still have emotions, we still have emotional attachments to foods, we still eat fun stuff that's full of, the fatty carbohydrate combination is probably the most lethal, potent thing in humanity to have ever existed, and arguably is responsible for the rise in obesity levels and heart disease that we currently experience. I just want to go back to, well, there's probably a couple of things I want to go back over actually that you've said that I've taken down as notes, but you mentioned about earlier on putting things into context, and when you were talking there, you were mentioning about when a client's had a burger or had something, and you go, well, but how does that add up in the whole kind of picture of your calories? And again, that's the importance of the big picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you can consistently I think for anyone that's thinking about it and looking at it now, if you go and eat something, whatever it is, it's fine.
Yeah,
is that your approach as a coach?
100%. Like, we've got foods that are more ideal, that are going to make us feel better and healthier. That's a given. That's why there's things in place like eat your 5 fruit and veg a day, because ultimately the pack full of nutrients is going to make you feel better. If you feel better, you're probably going to make better decisions and so on and so forth. There's a knock-on effect in there. If you want to lose weight and you're not bothered about how you feel, then just remain in a calorie deficit. Eat what you want. Have a pizza a night if you want. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you lose weight. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, my clients want to lose weight, but also feel good and feel happy. And they probably don't realize it, but do realize it to a certain extent, that they've got to eat relatively good food to feel that way as well. Do you know what I mean? It's in there, but you won't be conscious.
Well, I think that's the main thing, though, isn't it? It's the question is, do you want to feel great? Do you want to be happy? Right. Okay. Well, we have a plan for you to do that. If you want to be healthy at the same time, this is how you go and do it. If you want to feel full of energy, this is how you go and do it. One of the things that I did say, like when you eat whatever food it is, and then as a trainer, if I respond with, "Oh, that's fine," like I think probably me and you, when we say that's fine, it's very different to asking your wife or your partner a question, and when they respond with, "Oh, that's fine." That kind of fine is a different one. That's not good. That's something, address that straight away. If your trainer turns around and goes, "Yeah, it's fine. Just take it as it is. It's fine. It's okay." It's okay.
That's it. It's chilling out. It's taking this complex process in their head and just getting them to trust you so that they realize that it's actually not that complicated. And all we're trying to do is get them to a really healthy, positive place. And I'm talking more about like mental well-being than anything else there. Developing a positive relationship with food, which I think is vital.
So when it comes to losing body fat or dropping a bit of weight to feel healthier, feel a bit more energized, do you kind of set out any particular targets, like, okay, well, we'll go hard, we'll cut down on calories, we'll diet, we'll drop weight over the next 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks, and then we're going to look to actually try and maintain it? Do you go through that process? Because I think sometimes when people do go into dieting, they go through the process of thinking, oh my God, it's forever kind of thing. And is it important to have a finish line for that process in terms of a timeline cutoff?
Yeah, I guess initially I think it's important for people to have some kind of goal and, look at the big picture and then kind of work it backwards, break it down, and then start, day by day. Ultimately, the message that I'm trying to get across to my clients is that by them achieving their goal, they're probably not going to feel any different like overnight. It's going to be a process that happens daily. So if they can kind of fall in love with the process, fall in love with building habits, looking after and be more conscious about food and exercising more consistently, then that will help them, ultimately achieve that goal, and then whatever goal they kind of set themselves after it. The thing that I do with my online clients now, just to get them going, is set them a 30-day goal, which will be, dress tired to exercise, so whatever it may be, and a 90-day goal, so they've got a short and a long-term goal. Again, I'm not bothered if they hit it that badly. Like, they've set that for themselves, and then we'll work backwards together. I think for me to dictate goals for clients, it doesn't work. They've got to come up with it themselves. I'm there to guide and help, but ultimately, if they want to achieve something, then it's got to be organic and understanding it.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And would you suggest, or what would you suggest as like a sensible weight loss target for people to aim for? Like, I know we probably speak about lose a pound a week, or people get upset or pissed off when they lose a pound a week. But you do that over the context, like you said, of the bigger picture. If you do that over the course of a year, if you drop 52 pounds, that's like losing a couple of arms.
It's unbelievable. The person that put this into the best perspective for me was some guy that's quite good with trading and stuff like that. And he said, if you used to invest £1,000 into something and it had a growth of 1% a day, you'd be over the moon with that return at the end of the year, because that'd be like a 37% increase, I think, on your initial investment, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you can kind of get that idea into people's heads, and they're kind of looking at £1 isolated as opposed to like a 37% increase over the course of the year, that's a phenomenal change. Yeah, it's perspective, yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to perspective, what's been your perspective over the course of, well, should we say the last year or so with the pandemic? We'll go into that first. We'll get into the other stuff later. But with the pandemic, obviously we've had the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, various other initiatives. And I think fundamentally, from the perspective of the health professional, as a nation, we are in a pretty dire situation, not just in terms of the statistics and the number of deaths, but this is something that's, I would argue, has been a big problem for a long period of time. If you go back and have a look at the rates of obesity, the frequency of people developing cardiovascular diseases, the amount of money we have to spend on the NHS and probably privately as well, how many billions a year are going into treating some pretty basic, pretty basic and avoidable health problems. What's your take on that whole picture?
I think it's been interesting, and I think looking back, it's always easy to kind of identify things. Like, it feels like almost over the last 12 months, we've had about 3 or 4 Januaries. And what I mean by that is, we've gone into lockdown. People have almost got like an adrenaline kick. They don't really know what to do, but they're going to focus on themselves, and it quickly dies off. And then all of a sudden, gym's going to reopen. So that January kind of feeling comes back around. And we've had that a couple of times. And it's frustrating, really, because you think the more often, the more frequent that someone or, a culture or society goes through something like that, more people would realise that actually the way they're approaching it is probably not the most ideal. And, they're probably looking to do things that are quick fixes. And like I said at the start, they're not setting up right. They're not building the foundations for them to go on to develop these lifestyle changes. So, yeah, it's more frustration than anything. But people will have come out of it in a better position, but every January, I guess.
I think
just frustrating,
because I think from what I've witnessed, I know plenty of people who, they'd never set foot in a gym before. They'd never really gone running before. They'd never necessarily put a focus on their health and fitness. But with the whole pandemic kicking off and, people being on furlough, businesses closing, people working from home, kids, possibly being at home a lot more as well. The ability for people to have the time to go out and exercise and to pay a little more attention to their health and fitness, that's increased in a way. I think the only people who are really suffering are the people who are still sat on their asses not doing anything. Like they weren't going to a gym before, they weren't doing anything previous to the lockdowns and gyms closing. Whereas I do know there are plenty of people who are far worse off and suffering a lot more as a result of not being able to go and access the gym. What's it been like for your clients having to make that adjustment? Because obviously I imagine you'll have been seeing them all in the gym on a frequent basis, and then they've had to go and adjust and change everything and develop. Because we talk a lot, don't we, about habits and patterns and being able to maintain a level of normality. Like, obviously this is a massive change for people who were already somewhat fit and healthy and working towards it, which isn't particularly easy to have to go and completely readjust to. So how have they found that? How have they coped? Have they faced any issues or problems with it?
I think looking back again, one of the things that you just mentioned on there is, this idea of routine and habits and stuff like that was something that I was quite aware of through the first and second and third lockdown. And what I did quite well was the diary I'd set up in the gym was the diary that I just kind of introduced and implemented on Zoom. So if they were in Monday at 6 a.m. in the gym, they would be in the same slot in the diary. If nothing else was certain in life, I was going to make sure that PT, personal trainer, health and fitness was that one thing that they could fall back on. Understanding human needs, understanding this idea of certainty and variety and stuff like that, I think has helped. Obviously, the pandemic has brought a hell of a lot of variety, positive and negative, and not a lot of certainty for a lot of people. So I wanted to be that kind of backstop almost. So I think, some of them dealt with it really well. Within the community, you've got people that kind of step up to the plate almost, don't they? And they help the other clients out. You've got ones that struggle, and it's cyclical. Some have good days, some have bad days, and ultimately, I'm just trying to be the person that's consistent in a time of uncertainty more than anything. I think overall, my clients have done really well.
Well done to them. Well done to you as well for managing to maintain that.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Going back to what you said about calories and protein, I think you said they were your two main focal points.
Yeah.
Early on. Any reason that you start with those? What's the benefit of learning and understanding, obviously, A, calories, but then B, protein, and then what's the role that plays in fat loss?
Yeah, cool. So you've hit the nail on the head on the last bit there, fat loss. Clients will come to you typically and say, Johnny, I want to lose weight and turn up. So the first thing that you kind of got to get them to understand is the difference between weight loss and fat loss. The quickest way to lose weight would be to lose a combination of fat mass and lean mass. But because they've said tone up, A, they don't really know what that means is, and B, like losing weight is not going to help achieve that. So the focus initially is calorie deficit, and then, like I said, keeping protein nice and high. I'm trying to get through to them the idea of building from the inside out. So by hitting and maintaining a consistent calorie deficit, we should start to drop a little bit of fat by keeping our protein nice and high. And we'll try and work that out depending on the weight and stuff like that. I'll go through that in a second. We should be able to maintain as much lean mass as possible so that as they start to shred and become leaner, that shape, that tone, that physique kind of comes through. That makes sense.
So you are 100% aiming to maintain and maximize muscle mass.
Yeah, I think study and research has shown that people like novice trainers, trainers with a young exercise life, whatever you call it, can actually increase lean mass as well as lose fat mass initially as well, which is something that you can utilize pretty powerfully as a coach.
Yeah, I do know that in my world of kind of sports performance and athleticism that, you know, in terms of dieting and crash dieting, you can't afford to lower the calories too much and lose the weight too quickly. I think a lot of fighters probably do that, and as a result, they go into their fight, whether, you know, someone's ultimately trying to kill them, they go in there weak, under strength, low on energy, and ultimately, because they've cut calories so hard, they will have lost muscle mass in that process. So being able to maintain that muscle mass and that amount of energy, you've got to, I think, as you said, bring your calories down slightly, but keep your protein intake as high as possible, to make sure that you do maintain that level of that amount of muscle mass. And I think essentially the body is trying to survive itself, isn't it? It's trying to prolong itself. So if it thinks that, you know, it's starving, because obviously, I mean, you'll know that muscle is a major burner and a key spender when it comes to energy. It's like your girlfriend's got your wallet and she's off out into town, like, see you later. That's muscle mass, isn't it?
Yeah, bang on. It is true, you know, and this is why people that do Slimming World and stuff like that, and fucking hate them, I really do hate those companies. They'll lose a fuckload of weight, and I say weight, not fat mass. And they'll get to the end of it and they'll be like, oh, well, Johnny, I'm not toned, I'm still soft, I've still got bingo wings, I'm really not happy, my husband hates me. I think it's because you've lost like 3 stone in 4 days. Like, you need to chill out, you need to up your calories and like look after your protein. And obviously that's not directly the conversation I have with people, but it's there or thereabouts. Bang on. And
maybe a slightly dialed down version of that conversation, is that right?
Depends who you're speaking to, doesn't it? It depends on the rapport and the trust you've got with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one day. I had a consultation with a woman a couple of weeks ago, who was actually sat with me going through what she was doing at the minute. She said, I'm currently on Slimming World. It's like, just stop that now. Just ring them up, go online, cancel whatever you're doing. You're being mugged off. And, you know, we spent like an hour and a half talking about calories and the fact that it's not your fault that, you know, your weight's plateaued and stuff like that. They've educated you to know their system. They haven't educated you around nutrition. And I think that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the difference between weight loss and fat loss, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't think people understand that. People come in and say, you know, I want to lose weight and turn up. And I say, well, what does that mean? And they're like, I don't know, Johnny, what does it mean? And so you try and explain it, I guess, in a little bit of a way that hopefully makes sense to them.
I mean, can you do that? Can you do that for us now? Like, what is that key difference between weight loss and versus fat loss?
The difference, I suppose, going back to the example about wanting to feel healthy and losing weight and stuff like that, you know, if you want to lose weight, then fine, you're not bothered about turning up and stuff like that, then just be in a calorie deficit. Don't worry about your protein and anything like that. You'll lose a little bit of lean mass, you'll lose a bit of fat mass, cool, but you know, ultimately you'll be smaller. If you want to lose weight and you want to turn up, then you've got to approach it slightly differently. You've got to approach it with caution almost, because that shape that you've got, that everyone's got, is there. And you need to maintain it in a time of, like you said, ultimately like starving your body of what it needs, which is where protein, you know, plays a vital role. I mean, obviously there's benefits of utilising the other macros, your carbs and fats, but when you're working with general population that are new to it, there's no point overwhelming people. That, you know, keep it simple. I think simplicity is the way forward.
Because I think muscle expends something like 10 times the amount of energy that fat mass does. So the more muscular you are, the more energy you're burning automatically just to maintain yourself, which is why, you know, essentially bigger athletes, or males in particular, that typically have, you know, more muscle mass. Now, you know, please don't get on at me. I know women have muscle, they can have muscle. A lot of women are bigger than a lot of men. A lot of women are stronger than a lot of men. We're just talking about typically across a general population, men will have more muscle mass. So that's why I think when you look at the typical targets that are kind of set out as recommended guidelines by the government or whatever, you'll normally see males as being a little bit higher on that. So what you were talking about there in terms of weight loss is essentially starvation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just just consuming less calories than what you need. It's a calorie deficit, isn't it? That's what weight loss is. I don't think you're typically going to develop the physique you want unless you're lucky from just being on a weight loss program. I think there needs to be clarity. I think people need help understanding what they actually want and what they actually mean without putting words in their mouth. There's got to be education to start anything off. They've got to understand it to then stick with it, I guess.
And I think this is where your role as a fat loss coach does come into it as well, isn't it? Because, you know, you're not looking for that quick 8-week fix of like, let's just get a shit ton of weight off you so I can post it on my Instagram page and I can look great as a coach, because that's easy. I can do that. I'll just tell you to eat fuck all for the next month. Just go on a fast. Don't eat anything. Drink water and then prune juice or something like that, and satisfy whatever kind of little fantasy land you've got going on from your local Instagrammer that's got a big ass and 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers or whatever, and you know, go and follow that. But you know, essentially the role as a fat loss coach is ultimately or a good one will be to help people develop a lifestyle, develop the skills, develop the knowledge to be able to sustain it. So at the age of 70, 80, 90, God forbid, like, you know, if you make it 100 years plus, you're able to maintain a level of independence and strength. Because, you know, I think one of the key things that you're talking about here is preserving muscle mass so that you can still function as a human and you can still walk around, you can still get up out of a chair, you can push yourself up off the floor, and you still, you know, useful, competent, and capable.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that I will say to my clients all the time. The only reason I'm doing what I'm doing now is so that I can get to the age of 60, 70, 80 plus and still be able to get off the toilet by myself, still get up and down stairs. You know, I'm thinking big. I'm thinking the biggest picture possible and then working it backwards. I've obviously been educated around this kind of thing. So for me, it is like everything that I'm kind of looking at and observing all the time. I do appreciate that people are not interested in the same way that I am, and that's cool. But if you're coming to me for help, then listen to what I'm saying. Take the advice on board. If you want to, you know, be able to shit by yourself when you're 80, then okay, let's crack on.
Absolutely. Either that, or you'll just be on the floor in a heap or unable to do anything at the age of 80.
Yeah.
If you still want to be able to run around and play about and go and play golf or whatever, I think that's what you do when you get to that kind of age. And if you want to go and do all those things, then, you know, you've got to maintain some level of muscle mass and function with that. What I was wanting to ask you is, we were talking about kind of like the illusion of a personal trainer being perfect and having an amazing diet where we eat grass-fed beef, tons of vegetables, and absolutely nothing else. What does the diet of a fat loss coach actually look like, Johnny? What are you eating at the moment? How does it look day to day?
Well, I've got a subscription set with Domino's, to be fair, so just pizzas every single night. Nah, it's just like any other PT. I wouldn't say a fat loss coach or a strength and conditioning coach would probably differ too much if they understand the fundamentals of nutrition and diet and stuff like that. I'll keep it balanced. I mean, my girlfriend, she does most of the cooking. We'll decide on what we want to eat. And if I'm not really training towards anything, then, you know, I'm quite cool with what's on offer kind of thing. I will try and base each kind of meal around some source of protein because I do value the impact, the benefits of it. But it's nothing exciting. You know, I will try and cook a new meal each week because I like variety. Variety is the spice of life. I like cooking if I'm allowed to. But yeah, it's nothing special. Like I said, the fundamental is just to base each meal, each snack around some source of protein and then go crazy.
There you go, ladies and gents. It's nothing special. Incredibly unspectacular. Thank you for that, Johnny.
I've also been described as that before.
That was exactly what I was wanting. So, I mean, I think it's probably fair to say you're an opinionated individual. Would you care to take us through maybe one or two things that really piss you off about fitness industry, health? Go for it.
I think the biggest thing that probably pisses me off right now, again, it's all right me saying this 5 years later, but is the incompetence of a lot of fitness professionals within the fitness industry. Because just having that title of personal trainer or coach or whatever it may be, it buys a lot of trust from people. And ultimately, you know, we're working with people that need to change their lifestyle more often than not because they're not healthy or they're not in a good place. And if you're putting your trust into someone that's just incompetent, then it could do more harm than good. And this is why I'm really, really frustrated with your Slimming Worlds, your Weight Watchers, your Cambridge ones, etc., because a lot of people trust them to deliver something that they don't actually want or need. I think there's a phrase in marketing, isn't there? Sell them what they want, give them what they need. But I think these companies sell them what they want, but don't give them what they need. And it's an issue, you know, ultimately further down the line, they're going to end up and be in a worse position. And it's not going to help the country's current crisis with obesity, with heart disease, with diabetes, etc., etc. So that's probably the thing that winds me up the most. I don't know if you can tell. And then probably the second thing would probably be how easy it is to become a fitness professional. In my opinion, I think it's relatively straightforward. I know you're involved in level 2, level 3. I think it needs to be revisited. I think it needs to be looked at again from grassroots and changed. It's too easy. Anyone can do it. I don't think anyone should be allowed to do it.
Why is that?
Because of my first point, I think you've got to have a certain characteristic, a certain level of knowledge to be able to really help and influence people. And if you're not interested in genuinely helping people and you just want a quick buck or a quick quid, it's just not safe. I think that's what it comes down to.
And then I think that's the Weight Watchers Slimming World kind of thing. And I don't know whether, I mean, because I don't agree with their approach to nutrition at all. A little bit like a certain personal trainer many years ago that kind of renounced calories and told everyone that they were irrelevant and has since changed his tune on that. You know, these are the kind of things that are going on, and, you know, we're almost fighting a tidal wave of bullshit, if you like. And so I did read a book recently called Truth, Brief History of Total Bullshit. And it's all about conspiracy theories and, you know, how things form and generate momentum. And, you know, unfortunately for people in the know, the truth is always a very unexciting, unimaginative, uninspiring blob of grey goo, if you like. Yeah. Whereas a conspiracy theory or an idea that's falsified or comes from misinformation, or, you know, like the belief that calories don't matter or gravity isn't real or the world is flat. You know, looking back through history, and in this book, it talks about people who have essentially made up entire countries that didn't exist and sold people a promise of a new land and made money off it. There was a time where they thought there was a range of mountains through the whole of Africa, and even the world's expert map makers believed it and started drawing it. And because one of them drew it, the rest of them drew it. And, you know, ultimately, I think the reason that misinformation tends to generate momentum and, you know, a bit of fanatical support is because the entire volume of it, it's just the total amount of it compared to the truth, which is just, you know, calories matter, protein is important, and yes, you can eat pizza. That's the truth of it. You don't need to really complicate basic nutrition and health any more than that, do we?
No, that's it. I think Cummins actually spoke, Adam Cummins, if you don't know who Cummins is, it sounds a bit weird. He actually spoke about this on one of his Instagram posts. And it was this idea that, and I can't remember the word for it, that you can have both. And that is possible. And for so many people, that is just an impossible idea. And because they think that, then there always will be good and bad foods. And we need to get away from that. But yeah, it's easier to go with the flow than kind of to stand against it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know we've spoken a lot about food. How much of a role does drinking play in terms of fat loss, and what kind of things do you see and look to change with that, or coach people when it comes to drinking?
Alcoholic, are we talking?
Well,
Just anything.
Anything liquid based. I mean, I don't know if it's just
That's all I drink. Just beer. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to lose weight, then just make sure you're in a calorie deficit and just there you go.
Constantly hammered.
Constantly hammered, so you just don't know what kind of state you're in. You always look better when you're drunk, don't you? Let's be honest. So, yeah, that's my advice. Get pissed. It's vital, isn't it? It's vital. Again, it's not something that I'd look to remove if people really enjoy it, because I think life's too short for that. I do think the body takes the precedence in terms of burning the calories or the energy from alcohol first, because ultimately it's poison, isn't it? It's not good for you. There's no real health benefits to it, I don't think, when we're excessively consuming, which we typically do in this country. Again, it's learning and understanding this idea that you can have both. You can moderate alcohol, still achieve and get the results you want to get. Granted, it might take a little bit longer if you want to consume these kind of things, but that's cool. It's life, isn't it? Like, you've got to weigh up the pros and the cons, I guess. If you enjoy a glass of red, have it. Make sure you're within your calories.
So you would kind of just sit with people, question them, have a chat with them, and just be like, look, you do understand that red wine, lager, beer, spirits, whatever it is you're drinking, it still contains calories.
Yeah, I think most people know that, to be fair, because when you get to January, everyone does try January, don't they? And by the end of it, if they've done it well, they've probably lost a little bit of weight anyway. And they think that, it's magic and wow, just need to cut out. And subconsciously, they've kind of figured it out. But as a coach, you kind of got to bring it to the forefront a little bit and explain that. And
yeah, for anyone that has been drinking or has had the experience of drinking excessively, that it doesn't make you feel good, therefore it's not great for your body.
Yeah, that's literally as black and white as it is. I mean, you look class the morning after, don't you, when you're dehydrated and you've got an 8-pack instead of a 6-pack. But after that, you feel like crap for ages. I do anyway.
Unfortunately for me, I wouldn't know about that. I wouldn't know about the 8-pack.
Well, if anyone that can't see this, he's actually just lifted up his top.
So obviously nutrition, calories, protein, alcohol, you can still include it in balance, in measure. What would you typically advise in terms of training in order to drop body fat? How would you go about that? Because I think a lot of people probably made the mistake of going, I've got to do hour after hour of running, or I've got to go and do all this cardio. And I think for me, from a training side of things, it's something that people definitely butcher.
Yeah, people get excited, don't they? They get into this idea, they start on this health kick, and like, right, I'm going to get to the gym 14 times this week. I'm going to absolutely nail it. Look at me, I'm going to have 6-pack soon. You don't need to do that. I think, again, with anything that you do implement, you've got to make sure that you can consistently do it. And if you can consistently train 6 times a week class, I would advise anywhere between like 3 to 5 times a week of activity. Ideally, if we can get into the gym and we can train resistance-based 3-4 times, brilliant. If not, just do something that's designated exercise, active, whatever it may be, 3 to 5 times a week. The type of exercise will change and be dependent on your goal. But again, whatever you do, be consistent with.
Sorry, go on.
Just with it.
What would you suggest for people that say they don't, well, not people that just say it, but people who genuinely don't have a lot of time that they can kind of commit to it? What would you suggest?
It's figuring out why they think they don't have much time. Again, you don't need much time, I don't think. I think, like you said, you don't need to spend hours and hours. You can do some fantastic like Tabata workouts, which are 4-minute rounds of exercise. You could do 3 or 4 of them in the morning, and it takes up 16 minutes of your day. Do that again consistently 3 to 4, 5 times a week, and you'll start to see results, benefits. If you want to develop a little bit more tone, or you want to get a bit stronger, then you've got to go down the resistance route. It's all got a place. It's just kind of manipulating the training protocols to suit your lifestyle and making it sustainable again.
So for anyone that isn't quite sure of the Tabata training protocol, an example of that would be a Tabata session is always 20 seconds of work with 10 seconds of rest with 8 sets. So it's 3 minutes, 50 seconds or 4 minutes if you want to round it up of working through. I would suggest probably just pick one exercise, do one exercise at a time. You suggest that?
Yeah. And it depends if you've got a coach and someone that can kind of guide you and give you that variety, then go for it. But yeah, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary, does it? Again, it's not sexy though. It doesn't sell.
No, there's nothing fancy about going, look, just do 3 minutes, 50 seconds worth of training or movement, get a little bit out of breath, 3 to 4 times a week for a year. That doesn't sell. I believe I actually posted this a long time ago. It might have been last year or the year before. I actually put this as a social media post offering out anybody the opportunity for some extreme transformation that would consist of a couple of hours of training per week for the course of a year. And I got nothing.
It just doesn't sell, does it? I think what we need to do as personal trainers need to have a look at what Weight Watchers and something will do. Like just sell the way that they do it, because fucking people buy it. They don't even use it. Mad.
So this is my next question for you, because I'm dead certain on wanting to see us as a nation massively improve longevity, health, fitness, with far less reliance on consistent medication that can be avoided.
Yeah.
I'm very much committed towards making sure that we actually improve the health of as many people as we can, as a trainer, as a coach, as an S&C practitioner. How do you see us being able to actually flip this whole situation around?
It's got to come down to education, hasn't it? You've got to start young. You've got to start in schools. I think was it a couple of years ago? Like they removed they actually increased games from 1 hour a week to 2 hour weeks, which I thought was a step in the right direction. I still don't think it's close enough to what it should be. We've got to make exercise and activity part and parcel of everyday life. I know that's not possible for some people. I know some people are interested in it. But ultimately, if you want a nation which is predominantly more healthy, more active, has a smaller reliance on medication, then that's got to be the process. I think especially in this country, I've said this before, I think it's probably quite interesting, quite different. On the continent, everyone will study a second language. They'll study English as like a second language for them to learn. If we're not doing that in this country, we're not putting time towards that, I think we should study the body. I think everyone's got a body. Everyone owns a body. Do you know what I mean? I think there should be some level of basic understanding of what's going on with your body. I think if you know that, then hopefully you can make better choices.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on it. It is all about education. And if you consider our gift of being around on this planet is that we now possess this organic matter that, let's be honest, the majority of it tends to function without us even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So understand it, like we're essentially being put in the most, like, if you think Tesla, if you think that their cars are advanced, times that by whatever number you want, and you've essentially got the computer power of the human body. I think, again, I read another book. I think it was called, it was something to do with the brain. It was some cognitive science book, and it was something along the lines of, if we compiled all the computing power in the world together into one unit, we would essentially have the potential to replicate the brain of a rat. That's as good as we could get. So when it comes to actually putting a conscious thing into a brain and connecting all the neurons and essentially the software for what goes on in between our ears, all the computing power in the world would probably only manage the capability of replicating a brain of a rat. So there you go. There's a statistic.
Like
so
that.
we've got all this potential and all this power in terms of our body and our mind and the way we think, but we never actually get taught to use it, do we?
No, I think David Goggins touched on this a little bit. I'm sure loads of people have spoke about it, but this idea of that we never really hit or reach our full potential. And I think that's kind of sad in a way, because even if we tapped into it just a fraction, I think as a species, we'd be phenomenal. You know, with that conscious element to what we possess and stuff like that, I think we'd literally fly. I think it's crazy, really. And
do you know what? That just sorry to cut you off there, but that's one of the things that gives me a bit of hope. As a Star Wars fan, I want to believe that I can, just move things with my mind, or I can, I can power something just by thinking about it, or if the missus goes, "Oh, can you hoover up?" and you just go, "I'm on it," and you can carry on. You can carry on watching the football. You don't even have to think. Like, what if that was actually possible? Why can't that be possible? Anyone listening to this, if you can come on and tell me why that will never be possible, I would love to hear it. I'll have you on as a guest. We'll talk about it.
I think it could be. You never know. Like if we just tapped in, maybe not me and you, but someone out there could probably do it. I think it's just phenomenal what we could potentially achieve, and I think I've spoke to a few clients about this, and it must sound like I speak to my clients about some really depressing shit, but we're speaking about dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, and ultimately like how awful it is, and how people can kind of live in a state of no quality of life for years and years and years. And it was actually a doctor that said it to me. She said it's cruel in a way. She said, as a species, we're really good at keeping people alive. We really can't let people kind of go and just be comfortable. And I think with the NHS, as brilliant as it is, people rely on it too much. I think the ease of access it's just ridiculous. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no consequence really of being overweight, obese, having heart problems, diabetes, stuff like, because that someone will sort it. I think that's an issue.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I've been in hospital before where there's a woman sat there. She had a mild burn on her hand and she was complaining at the nurses, not to them. She was complaining at them, telling them they weren't doing their job by seeing serious patients. And she turned around and said, "I only need a bandage." I think my words were actually, "Well, you should have just gone to Boots then." I just to be clear, there are other bandage providers out there. You don't have to go to Boots. There is certainly an over-reliance on, I would suggest, not just the NHS, but there's an over-reliance on other people to fix our shit.
Yeah, people just don't own up to it. If they made a mistake, it's never their fault, and it's an issue. It really is, and it's a cultural thing. It used to be back in the day, survival of the fittest. It doesn't apply anymore. It just doesn't apply anymore at all.
No,
not in this country anyway. No,
I agree. I think that rule's changed to survival of the most adaptable. I tend to think of whenever you're scrolling through like YouTube or Facebook and you see videos of people doing stupid shit that could possibly get them killed. I like to think that that's just natural selection at work. That's the new level. That's where we're going with it.
It's fantastic to watch, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely! It kicks the ass out of cat videos any day. One thing I will say, I do think, hopefully for the people who are listening to this, and certainly if they are regular listeners of this, they don't fit into that category of people that we were just speaking about there. That you are, as a listener of this podcast, I would suggest you are someone who can take responsibility. You do take responsibility, and you will reflect on yourself with an open mind. And I think that's important, being able to make changes. I know we were talking earlier about, mentally getting yourself in place to make the changes for dropping body fat, transforming your physical self, and transforming your lifestyle. You have to look at it with a critical eye and an open mind, don't you?
Yeah, you have to take yourself out of the situation a little bit. I assume your listeners will be the type of people that are open to the idea of change anyway. And I think if they are, they'll probably accept some of the stuff that's being said and appreciate it is what it is.
let's be honest, if they don't accept it, they won't be listening for very long, will they? You won't be coming back if that's the case.
Especially if it's Slimming World.
Yeah, I have no Weight Watchers or Slimming World fans at all. I don't think.
Never seen it.
It's so. Do you find much difference in terms of navigating conversations with friends and family when they're asking you for advice? Because I know that for a fact, from my point of view, that is drastically different to when I actually ask, or when I actually speak to my clients, or my clients ask me for advice. What's that like for you?
Frustrating more than anything. I hate speaking to my friends and family about it. Some of my friends they'll take on board what I'm saying, but family, it's one of them. I lose my temper, I lose my patience a little bit. Yeah, I'm not as calculated in my thought process, and I think people just don't react to that. I think if you're going to get a coach, make sure your coach isn't related to you. I think that's ultimately. You've had this before. You just can't speak to some of your family. They don't want to know. They don't want to be told by the younger sibling or the child. It's not interested.
Or their partner.
Partner's a terrible one. Wow. That's that.
Categorically. Go on. I feel like there's an element of deep truth in this for you.
It's hard, as a personal trainer yourself, you'll have tried. You'll have been there in the gym with your partner and you'll be saying, look, let's go do this. Let's try this. You want to achieve this. The amount of times I've walked away from my partner in the gym because she's just not doing what I'm saying. And, oh, Johnny, I don't like that exercise. Well, why are you wasting my time? Why are you here? Like, just do it or piss off. And ultimately, it's me that pisses off. Like, I just can't do it. I've walked away from numerous sessions with my girlfriend. I just can't do it.
So I've had possibly a couple of experiences in this where I'd say, to begin with, a lot of it was around the mind and doing some mindset work and some coaching things and laying some, I would say, subtle psychological foundation, to the point where, over a period of time, the more I speak to her about it, the more I do it, the more she picks up on it, the quicker she picks up on it. To the point where she has called me out and she's gone, I know what you're doing. When she does that, I need to change my approach. So I still, even to this day, I still do it. She won't listen to this, so we're fine. But I still do it, just in a very, very subtle way, with a complete emotional detachment from the conversation. But so it is still possible. It's very, very hard work. It's very, very tiring. It's very, very testing. Because obviously it's a person that you care about. So it's difficult to go through those conversations. But and then in the gym, it's almost a case of, let's say we were doing some squat work. Just have like the bar on the back, and then it's just like constantly like looking around or trying to look at me for approval of like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And then it's like giggling, and then it's like, oh, just fucking lift. Like, you know how to do this. We've done it a million times before. Get on with it.
Just do it. It is tough. And I think, like you say, if you can separate yourself from it a little bit and be a little bit, I think when they can see that you're coming from a place of love and it's coming from your heart, I think they'll probably buy into it a little bit more. And you're only reacting in a way because, like you say, you do care about them and you want them to do, and be as best and as healthy as they can, I guess.
Yeah. So I think, for anyone listening to this, my advice would be, as trainers, as coaches, we find it hard to coach our partners. If you are not a trainer or a coach, you have got very, very little chance. I'm not going to say no chance, because I'd never want to rule that out. I'd never want to say it's an impossibility. But the chances of you being able to coach and train and help that person in the same way that a professional would is probably just above zero.
Yeah, I agree with that. The best coaches will tell clients what they need to hear. And I think if you're training with your friend, you're training with a loved one or something, it's hard to say that to some people sometimes. Like, You need to sort your shit out. It's hard, isn't it? I don't have a problem with doing that there.
Yeah, literally what they need to hear in the way they need to hear it will get a positive response.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to, you mentioned Dave Goggins, big fan. Question is, are you doing his challenge?
No.
Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
It's done.
I'm sorry.
because I know that he speaks a lot about, I mean, he's very honest in his communication and his message, where he's like, get on, motherfucker, like, let's go. Like, it's just
literally word for
word. So, you know, like what kind of draws you into that mindset, and like why do you follow him? Why do you like what he says and what he comes out with?
So it was his I think it was his first book, Can't Touch Me or Can't Hurt Me, something like that. I can't remember. It's a while ago.
That's the one. Can't hurt me. Yeah.
Can't Hurt Me. And initially, I loved the way it was set out. It was kind of like a podcasty, booky vibe where he had his off and he was kind of giving the in-between and stuff like that. And I thought, you know, this guy's come from absolutely nothing, like the worst possible upbringing, to being this guy that's just, and he uses the word callous in his mind. I think that image is so powerful. And I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do as coaches with our clients, is trying to develop this mental toughness, this perseverance that I think is applicable in so many walks of life. I think that's why I follow him. His messages are just clear. You know exactly what he's about and what he wants to kind of get from people. And yeah, it's pretty cool, that.
So if you like straight talking, straight shooting, go and check out Dave Goggins, go listen to his book or read his book. I definitely recommend the audio because, like you say, it does have kind of that audible, podcasty, radio type feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's like the author's there reading the book as is, and he's just filling in the in between the lines, isn't he, kind of? And just hearing it come from his mouth, I think it's a little bit more personal as well, more powerful. Sorry.
Who else do you follow or tend to look to? Because I think, sorry, I just think that's important, because I think a lot of people are probably struggling for motivation or inspiration at the moment. I think we typically, you know, we always need a little bit of help or a little bit of something from someone else to kind of pull us up on the occasion. So who do you typically look to or learn from?
There was a really good book that I'm still trying to get through. It's like a huge book. I don't know if you kind of approached it. It's called The Tools of Titans. Yeah, brilliant book. And
Tim Ferriss, ladies and gents, Tim Ferriss.
He's a G. And, you know, he speaks to all these people. And the idea is that you kind of read the people that you're interested in, and you discover these kind of patterns between the most successful people in business, in the world, in health and fitness, whatever it may be. And I think it's fantastic. Off the back of that, I'd say that the person I would probably go to and advise would be Mark Manson. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a fantastic book, and I think a bit like Goggins, it's straight to the point. It's things that you don't want to hear. It forces you to think about things. And again, I think that puts people in really uncomfortable position. But it does it in a way which is encouraging. It kind of pulls you out of certain loops and stuff. I think that's probably the book or the person I'd go to.
Both great books. So I want to get your thoughts on. I mean, we've talked a lot about straight shooting, haven't we? And you know, you have to view things with an open mind if you want to change.
Yeah.
So just kind of linking into that, and again, I don't want to offend anybody, and I know you don't really want to offend anybody when we talk about these things, but what are your thoughts on body positivity?
It's got a place at the minute, you know, especially with everything that's going on with, you know, mental health and looking after people's well-being as a whole. I think body image is a powerful thing. I think it needs to be understood. No one should tell anyone that they shouldn't be happy with how they are. But I think where body image kind of links in is when it's hard, isn't it? You've got to be careful what you say. If someone's overweight,
you do have to be very careful with what you say, because I think even if you don't say something that is particularly offensive, like it can always get taken out of context or twisted slightly. Or, you know, again, someone, you know, you think you say something meaning one thing, but someone hears something entirely different.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges when trying to speak about body image with people. If you're overweight, if you're obese, if you're underweight, you're anorexic, anything like that, then you're probably not healthy. Okay, that's black and white. That's probably the way it is. But there's no reason why you can't love the way that you look and are. No one should tell you that that's not the case. Like, you have to be comfortable in your skin, however that may be. I think the issue is when people start preaching that being obese, being overweight is healthy, when ultimately it's just not.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of touched on the other side of the coin there as well, where I think body positivity kind of gets, like, the typical body positivity coaching side of things tends to match more with the more overweight category. I think probably just because there are more people in that category, and fundamentally from our side, from our point of view as trainers, is we want everybody who we speak to, who we come across, to be influenced in a positive manner, to live a healthy, fulfilling, positive life, feeling great about themselves and feeling positive about themselves. And where I think it kind of falls down a bit is that obviously you've got obesity and being overweight, and then on the other side of the coin, you've got the anorexic
size zero models,
which both are equally unhealthy. However, I think we're kind of promoting the overweight side of things as it's probably just more normal. So it automatically becomes more accepted, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. If it's part of your everyday life, then of course it's going to be something that's kind of normalized by society. I think ultimately when you break down goals with clients and you ask them why and you figure out why they really want to lose weight and tone up, it always comes down to the same one or two things. And it's to be happier, it's to be confident, it's to just enjoy being who they are. And I think if people understand that, then weight wouldn't be such an issue to them. And you probably would have a population that was generally happier with themselves.
Yeah, and I think ultimately to be fit and healthy, you have to attach a level of positivity and value to yourself as a person, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much nails our topic of fat loss, if you like, or body composition coaching, if you want to call it that. I think if there are any more questions from anybody listening, send them in. I'll get Jonny back. Send them in. I'll get Jonny back on the show and we'll talk about that. The next thing I want to talk to you about is something that we both have a mutual understanding of, is the situation with, again, another factor of the fitness industry, the way that gyms work, the way gyms are run, an experience that we've both shared to a degree over the past, I would say 12, 16 months maybe. Would you care to shine a little bit of a light on that for us, Jonny, and what difference it's made to you and what it's meant for you as a trainer?
Again, got to be careful what I say here. So ProFit is my only ever experience of personal training. I've never done it any other gym than the one that I work at. I've loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Our role as personal trainers and as a company has been to go into our gym that we had a deal with and look after clients. We're not employed by the gym. We're just there to do our job, make as much of an impact as we can, positive impact as we can with our clients. What I've got to experience over the last year is the other side of the coin in the health and fitness personal training industry within the UK. And it's that idea of tiered personal training, employed personal training, corporate, I guess, personal training, if you can call it that. And to experience that and witness that from the top down and bottom up, both sides of it again, has been eye-opening. I think it's actually helped me progress a lot more in the last 12 months. Because I think Matt Robinson once said to me, you don't know what you don't know. And because ProFit's been my only ever experience of it, I didn't know what else was going on within the industry. So my ideas, my values and stuff, which I thought were solid, some of them have changed. Like, I value things a little bit more now than I did 12, 13, 14 months ago. I think that's as vaguely and specific as I feel comfortable being.
So I think this is almost the difference of, or the case of the fitness industry shifting slightly, where a lot of PTs now were moving online. Maybe like myself, like obviously that's a change that I've gone and made. And, I think any PT worth their salt is looking to work with as many people as possible to maximize kind of the reach that they have and the influence that they have on people's health. And in a gym, as a trainer, there is a ceiling to that. There is a limit to that. So there is a point where you do have to take it online and grow beyond that. And I think, the situation that me and Jonny are referring to is that the company the gym that we were partnered with, the gyms we were in a position where they kind of obliterated the contract that we had as a personal training company and decided to go down the route of going it alone and hiring their own trainers, which very good personal trainers, we discussed right at the start of the show, kind of like the dropout rate is incredibly high. So I think for people in the industry 5, 7, 10 years in is an absolute rarity. So very good trainers are very, very tough to come by, and almost the way that a lot of the training providers work and the way that a lot of these gyms are going now, it's all about the numbers. It's purely about how many trainers can you get in. Doesn't matter whether they're any good or not. Can they be working with our people? Because they seem to think, and again, it's probably the detachment from corporate level, isn't it? Where they seem to think that, as long as we've got so many trainers in the gym, they'll all be training our members, and then we don't have to look after them because our trainers will do it, and our members will keep coming back.
Yeah, 100%. And if you kind of compare it to this idea of like quick fixes and stuff, I think the word that the gyms use now is penetration rate. So the impact that personal trainers can have on the percentage of their clients, and they want that to be a certain level, which I get, because we know that when members train with good personal trainers, the members stick around. So if the members stick around, obviously they're going to be taking in a little bit more cash out there. So the more members with PTs, the more cash for the gym. It makes sense. What we were doing really well was recruiting good people, not necessarily good PTs, and making them brilliant PTs so they could help people. Now, if you do something like that, it's obviously going to take a little bit of time. It's like building habits in it. It's going to take time to develop. If you then throw a slimming world into the gym, you might get really, really quick results and, put 10 PTs in there and penetration rate goes up by 20%. But they won't last because the PTs are shit, or they're not doing what they think they should be doing. Does that make sense?
So I think in terms of kind of where a lot of gyms are heading now, it is purely on that volume basis, where they're just going to essentially hire as many trainers as they can, probably employ them. And I would suggest that, if you are looking at having a one-to-one trainer or a group instructor that is working in a big commercial gym, I think some of the questions, and I'd like to know your take on this and what questions you'd be asking, Jonny, or what questions are the audience should be asking. I'd be asking, how does the money work? How does the finances work? Am I going to be paying you 35 quid for a session where you end up then putting 25 of that into the till of the gym, and you only end up taking home £10 an hour, shall we say? Because we do know that that's actually a situation that's occurring. Which, I think if you're a personal trainer and you're kind of selling yourself at £35 an hour and you're only taking home 10, you need to go and work somewhere else. Just give me or Jonny a call. We'll sort you out. We'll get you in a different gym, a different environment. We'll put you in a better position to be successful, because I think that's completely ridiculous for gyms to be capitalizing and pouncing on those kind of things.
I think it's extraordinary, isn't it? One thing that we always kind of got instilled into us being a pro fit trainer is, people are paying for your time. You've got to value that time. And If a PT is happy with taking 10 quid an hour, I genuinely don't think that they're in the right industry, the right gym. It's not for them. Because
and what would you say the problem with that is? Because I've got a very clear idea of what that is. What do you say is the problem with a PT that does value their time at that kind
what,
of price?
£10 an hour? That the value that equivalents to £10 is not going to be very good. You get what you pay for, don't you? If they value their time at £10, they'll probably get you to do burpees for an hour.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think
you get what you pay for, don't you? At the end of the day, and it might look like £35 a session to you, but like you say, if you ask the question, you figure out how much the PT is actually getting, then it says it all, really. I know there's an example in a gym, but I don't work at another gym, where he has to charge £35 a session because he's employed. He doesn't value it that much. He doubles up on the session. So if someone pays for one session, he will give them 2 sessions. So he's already taking 10 quid over an hour. He's doing 2 sessions for £35. He's taking it's 5 quid a session. It's less than minimum wage. It's just extraordinary.
it is bizarre when you think about it that way. So I think question number 1 for anyone that is considering hiring a PT is, how do the finances work? Like, where does the money go? How much of it goes to the gym or the facility? How much of it goes to the trainer? Because I think, it is important to know those things. What else would you suggest that is a good question for someone to ask a personal trainer? Because I think, like, we speak about this in terms of when we're interviewing clients, we're kind of assessing, are we the right fit?
Yeah.
And it also has to happen in reverse. Like, the client is essentially saying, look, I'm going to pay you a considerable amount of money to work with you to get a result. Do I like you? Essentially, I need to figure out who you are as a person. So what should they be asking in return?
I think one of the questions I would be asking someone if I was approaching a PT was, I'd love to know how many clients they actually had, how many people they worked with on a daily basis. Because ultimately from there, you can get a reference, I suppose, if you wanted to. You can find out, can't you? It's something that I will push, to be fair, as a PT. I will let them know who I'm working with and similar clients that have wanted similar things to what this person wants, so that, they know that they can trust me. They know that my systems work. So yeah, find out how many clients they've actually got, not how many clients they think they've got.
Or have had previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would suggest a really good tip for someone to figure that out is, go to the gym a good number of times and just watch, have a look around, see what the PTs are doing, see who they're working with. If you constantly see someone who's a PT and they're always busy and they're always there and you always see them, that is a very good sign. If you constantly go in and you see a particular PT who's just kind of sat around not doing anything, that's going to tell you something else. If you see a PT who's there 1 week and then you don't see him for the next 3 or 4, that's going to tell you something else.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I suppose off the back of that, it's not really a question, but yeah, have a look at the body language. Look at how the PTs are holding themselves. Do they look the part? And I'm not talking about 6-pack, but are they professional? They're trying to get your business. Are you going to get what you're paying for? Is it worth it? And as much as people say they don't judge people on appearance, it's bullshit, because everyone does it.
I 100% agree with you on that, because I think if you say, oh no, I don't judge people on the way they look, well, number 1, you're lying. Number 2, it's a fundamental part and a fundamental process that we naturally go through to figure out, do we want to spend time with this person? Like, if you were to look at a lineup of people, I mean, in our situation, we probably look at a lineup of women. I don't know, what's your taste?
Yeah, I'd go for women.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at a lineup of women. And, before you actually get to know someone, you'd be scanning around, you'd be having a look and going, right, well, who would I like to speak to? Who would be a good fit? You don't know anything about them at that point. None of them are bad people. They're all the same, but you would have a distinct kind of inclination as to who you're going to go and speak to. So the way that someone does appear, the way that someone looks is kind of, I always say that it's a projection of what's going on in their head. Like, if you see someone who's covered in tattoos and is like a Mohican, or you know, a load of piercings or whatever, it tells you something about that person. You know,
Yeah, of course, it's fundamentals. Yeah.
The reason we do those things in the first place is to project ourselves onto the outer world so that people do form opinions of us before they actually speak to us. So
it's just the way it goes. I don't think you just have to look at some of the biggest industries in the country based around this idea. The love, you love a relationships industry. You're looking at Tinder. You're looking at Bumble. You don't even speak to anyone. You just swipe. And if my girlfriend's listening to this, I haven't used Tinder for years. It's based on appearance. It's based on image, and yeah, have a look. See if they're pissing around. See if if you genuinely want to be professional.
There's a reason dating websites do have pictures
and Instagram.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sells, doesn't it?
So, what else have we said there? We've gone through, find out how the finances work, the number of clients they've got. What was the other one that you said? We were just. What do they look like? Are they professional?
And stuff. Yeah, professionalism.
Are they professional? We do go. We're not just about the top surface layer. We're not that shallow, are we? We're more interested in the profession.
Definitely not.
Professionalism. What other questions would you advise people to ask personal trainers or interview a PT with?
How long have they been at the gym? How long have they been in the industry? How many sessions they deliver? Get an idea of work capacity, I guess.
Yeah, track record. Yeah,
it's bang on.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. I think if someone's kind of not been there very long or they've been a bit hit and miss, that could potentially be a bit of an issue. Or if they keep career hopping, might not be a long-term fit for someone. And equally, I think experience is important, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And again, a question we ask our clients, our new potential clients, is what's your history in health and fitness? Like, I think a good personal trainer, a good coach will probably beat them to it, and they will tell them where they've been, what they've done, and how they've got to this point, and tell them about the story. It's building trust in it, and I think if a coach or a PT is not telling you that, it's because they probably don't want to share something with you.
If it's I've been in prison for multiple offences over the last 20 years, run a mile.
Bit of a red flag, that, isn't it?
That's your first training session. Run a mile. I think I'm going to throw into a mix as well there. Another one to think about, like, ask the trainer what the qualifications are. Find out what they're skilled in. What do they specialize in? What you can go to Jonny for, because we've spent the last hour and 20 minutes speaking about it. Find out what your personal trainer is especially good at. What's a particular enjoyment of theirs? What is going to actually match up with what you want that they can offer. I think that's an important thing to delve into as well.
I think a good PT, again, a good coach will probably talk you through this process of what they could potentially deliver, and then give you the option, if the relationship doesn't work, that someone that can help them achieve that goal. I think if they're willing to kind of give up business almost, they're acting in your best interest, which is kind of what you want a PT to do anyway. You're putting a lot of trust, probably a lot of money into them. Like, trust them. I think listen to what they say, how they hold themselves, all the things that you probably do just not aware of.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. Is there a willingness to let you go if you're not the right fit? Ultimately, I know there are people that I probably shouldn't work with, even though I could help them. I know there are people out there that would definitely do a better job, or they'd probably just get on with them better, to be honest. I mean, I don't cope well with moaning and whinging. Is a prerequisite no if you wanted to be one of my clients and join my coaching team. There's not a chance that you can get away with moaning and whinging completely all the time. So yeah, you do have to find the right personality fit, don't you?
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of working in the team that we've worked in. There's a common value, there's a common goal. We want to help as many people as we can, not I. And that's probably one of the issues within the health and fitness industry. It's very dog eat dog in a lot of gyms, and it's awful for PTs.
I think that's That's resemblant of something that's definitely gone on in our situation, isn't it? Where it's almost like you almost just want to sit there and say, look, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. You know?
Nail on the head there. Again, yeah, nail on the head.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it. It's almost like you've hit an iceberg and you decide to just get a little bucket and start chucking water off the side. Do you know what I mean? Like making those small changes and useless efforts to try and improve your situation when in reality you should just get in a lifeboat and bugger off.
I kind of feel like they were outside the boat and they're kind of putting water into the boat. There's an iceberg. Let's just top it up a little bit.
That's probably a better analogy. That's probably an even better analogy.
Because they were never on my boat initially. They were never there. I wouldn't bring them aboard. Wow.
So I think we've been through quite a lot there today. I think, hopefully everyone listening has got some real good tips on how to drop a bit of body fat, how to do it sensibly, how to manage their weight and their health at the same time. Because I think that's fundamental. Like weight loss isn't just a case of, for every one who is in a calorie deficit, you are then automatically more exposed and more inclined to pick up some form of illness or catch a cold, or you're essentially weakening the body and weakening the system. So we need to make sure it's as strong, as fit, and as healthy as possible for the duration, and that we are competent throughout. So hopefully you've all got some really good tips on that. And if you are thinking about finding a coach or a trainer, we've just reeled off, I think, was it 6 or 7 tips there? Well, I've got 7 written down. So find out how the finances would work. What's their number of clients like? What's their track record like? What qualifications have they got? I don't think we actually spoke about that, but what qualifications have they got should be another one. Are they a professional? Are they professional in the way they conduct the business, carry themselves around the gym, the way they speak, the way they address their clients, the way they actually train and approach the sessions, i.e. not standing around with a cup of coffee in their hand, just watching from a distance with their hands on the hips? Are they actually engaged in the session? What's their history as a trainer? And would they actually refer out if you weren't the right fit? Would they be willing to do that? I think they are some pretty good questions that people could go and ask.
I reckon if a person went into a PT like that in a normal gym, that PT would probably shit themselves. But again, that would say a lot about the PT, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think, go in armed with those questions. Go in and ask those questions, be upfront about things, find out what you can. And the answers you get back in return will tell you everything you need to know. Ultimately, if you don't want to go that far and you don't want to look that far, you can always get in touch with myself or Jonny.
But we'll try and do our best.
Jonny, where can people find you to find out more if they want to approach a journey in fat loss or get a few more tips from you? Where can they follow you? Where can they contact you?
Head to Instagram. I've got all my details at Jonny Baird Personal Trainer.
Big Instagrammer. I will link your contact details to the podcast notes on this show so people can find you. But yeah, I think thank you for your time for coming on today, Paul. It's been great to speak to you, great to chat to you, great to learn from you as well.
Yeah, no, thanks for being on. I feel like I've got a lot off my chest today. I feel better for that. I do feel a lot better for that, yeah. See,
so it's not just a guest conversation, it's a therapy provision.
As well. Therapy session for sure.
Anyway, Jonny, been great talking to you. Take care, Paul. So there we have it. Loads of useful health and fitness tips from Jonny Baird. So if you are looking to drop a little bit of body fat, if you are looking to improve your physique, improve your health, improve your level of fitness at the same time, then some of the principles that he's come up with there and nailed down are, they're essential. They're key to follow. And like we said, they're not sexy. They don't really sell. But this is the truth. It's the pure honesty and decency of what fitness actually is and what health actually is. So please go and apply those. Give a few of those tips a bit of a try. If you do struggle with them, then obviously you can get in touch with me. Alex at Lenko HQ, or you can message us, Facebook, Instagram, Lenko Performance and Coaching. That's where you can go to see all of our stuff from there. And then obviously, please make sure you give the podcast a 5-star rating if you can, if you feel like we deserve it, if you've enjoyed the chat, enjoyed the conversation. Please drop us a rating, leave us a review, and hopefully you feel like you want to subscribe, and we will see you again, or you will hear from us again. So until next time, take care. That's it from me. Lenko out.